Good morning and welcome to A Closer Look. I'm your host, Linda Fontaine. Today we have a special show. I will be interviewing the three candidates for the mayor of Kingsport. And first up, we have Brian Woliver. He is running for mayor. And tell us, well, first of all, thank you for being here, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. A lot of us may not be familiar with you, so introduce yourself.
I'm Brian Woliver. I'm a native of Kingsport, born and raised here. The first 9 years of my life, I grew up in Cloud Apartments, and my parents worked very hard and got us in a better situation later on. But I graduated from Dobbins Bennett, played football all 4 years there. After high school, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club for about a year, and I just felt like I had this calling, so I joined the Marine Corps. I was a young, healthy, able-bodied adult, and felt like I needed to serve my country, so I joined the Marine Corps in the infantry. I deployed to Iraq in 2007. That's where I was injured in Fallujah. So shortly afterwards, they retired me and sent me home. And so the options were limitless of where I could have went, but I knew I wanted to come back home. I love Kingsport. It's got 4 seasons, a beautiful community. You know, it's a sense of belonging when you're here. Then after I got back, a lot of therapy, a lot of recovery. I was going crazy, so I called the Boys and Girls Club again here and said, hey, I'm losing my mind. They said, come down here and talk to the teens. Well, crazy enough, I ended up meeting my wife. She was one of the workers there. And we've been married for 10 years. We got 2 beautiful boys. They keep us on our toes running. I'm a youth football coach in Ling Garden. I've been doing it for, I guess, going on 6 years now. And then I am also a mentor at the Redemptive Life Foundation for Justice Involved Youth. You know, trying to steer some potential away from some negative outcomes, just trying to do the right thing. And then, it's a lot, I don't know.
You just got a lot to say because you have done so much. You're very involved in the community. Well, tell us, running for mayor, what would you see as, I know there's a lot of different things you want to touch on, but we're limited in time. So tell me, what would be the first maybe 2 or 3 pressing things that you would like to, you know, approach or attack, if you will, if you were elected mayor?
Well, I mean, one topic that keeps coming up, just about every household or individual I have an opportunity to speak with, is the homeless situation in our area. It's constantly growing, and there's mixed feelings on it. But you know, it's hard to judge something from the outside looking in until you get all the details. This is just one. Personally, the way I would approach the homeless situation is Kingsport not taking the reins and not taking it away from the organizations and the people that's already doing great things for the homeless community. And it's a needs-based situation. It's person by person. I feel like Kingsport should get behind these organizations and say, hey, we're here for you. We see the efforts and the strides that you're doing in the community, and we want to make sure that you know that we support you and we have your back. Whether that's working towards a day center, more resources, you know, something. If we have the stuff to help them out, we will. But when it comes to financial, like backing them financially, that's one of the things for the city. If we were to get involved financially, we could reach out for more state and federal grants. I mean, we don't nearly ask for as much money as we should. To help them. And there's millions of unclaimed dollars in the federal government that I know we could take advantage of. Another situation is economic growth. Businesses were leaving Kingsport long before the pandemic ever hit. So to say the pandemic is the reason that the city is struggling, it's not correct. I mean, we're just not keeping up with the times. We have to conform to where the direction of the region is going. And if we don't do something now, we're going to get left behind. So we need to make sure we're backing these small businesses that are struggling right now, making sure they have the support, whatever they need to stay in business and keep going forward, and get behind these entrepreneurs saying, hey, this is a perfect area to start a new business in. Like, this is the opportunity right now is the time to do it, while we also continue our recruiting efforts and letting everybody know we have such a great community, such a great city, and we are moving forward with the times. So come here, because you're not going to find a better environment, especially geographically, the people here. I mean, this is just a couple of things going on. I mean, we could probably sit here all day and talk about the needs of the city, the continued paving, the potholes all over the city. I mean, there's so much to cover, and I know that this is a short time. And if you want to find out more, you can follow me on my Facebook page, Brian Woliver for Kingsport City Mayor. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm open to anybody and everybody. As elected official, you should be open to talk to the citizens of this city whenever they need you.
Very good. So you're talking about the homeless, economic growth, the roads. I hear people talking about that all the time. So that is, I mean, as silly as that might sound, that's really important to a lot of people. So how would you propose we bring new businesses? Do you have an idea on that?
To bring in new business, I think there's a lot that we can do. I mean, obviously, we have the Move to Kingsport initiative, and they're doing a great job getting families to see the beauty of this area and wanting to relocate. Something that I feel like that we're lacking in is bringing in younger family here. So we don't offer enough family-oriented attractions to make them. Because in all honesty, if you want to come here, there's a couple of things you can do. You can go to Bays Mountain, which is an amazing place. I mean, we have a couple of things. We got the down at the river. We got a lot of things going on here, but we don't have nearly enough to bring in the younger crowds, the future of this city. And a lot of people moving here, if you're a younger family, you're going to say, okay, well, I'd like to move there because the school system's fantastic, and our school system is second to none. But it's, well, what do we do in our downtime? Well, we don't have enough stuff to do. And there's too many families that drive to neighboring cities to do things with their families, you know, trampoline parks and stuff like that. And I feel like we could really grow in that sense, is kind of livening up the city a little bit.
Very good. Thank you so much, Brian. So we want everybody to get out there voting. So Kingsport municipal election is May 18th. Early voting from April 28th to May 13th. Absentee ballots can be requested through May 11th. Get out there and vote. Thank you so much, Brian. And we will be back in just a moment with another candidate. Welcome back. We now have our second candidate, which is our mayor, our current mayor of Kingsport, Pat Shull. Thank you for being here today, Pat.
Thank you for having me, Linda. Appreciate it.
Anytime. I love it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, there's a lot of people moving to Kingsport, so there's people that don't know you yet. So why don't you reintroduce yourself to us?
Well, you're right. There are people moving to Kingsport all the time. Met folks yesterday from New Hampshire, of all places. I'm a native Kingsporter. Went through city schools, graduated from Dobbins Bennett. Many people still remember my mother and father. My dad was a physician for many years. Last of 4 children, all Dobbins Bennett grads. So I went to college at the Citadel, was commissioned second lieutenant in the United States Army, did a career in the Army. Along the way, I picked up a master's in public administration, always been interested in city government. Retired from the Army as a colonel after commanding at the company, battalion, and brigade levels, and came home, missed Kingsport and ready to retire from the Army, and done different things, including being a small business owner and so forth. But I've also been an elected official in one capacity or another for almost 13 years. It'll be 13 years this summer.
Wow.
Of which almost 2 years here soon will have been mayor.
I love that. Well, thank you for that. So tell us, how has the past 2 years been? An unprecedented, term you've had as mayor with COVID and all. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the first mayor of Kingsport, Mr. Dobbins, served from 1917 to 1923. And I thought about that one day. I was looking at his picture and I said, they had the Spanish flu back then. So it's kind of like we have a pandemic every 100 years. And then I did a little more research on Mr. Dobbins and realized he died in office. That kind of killed my interest in history for a few days. But it's been an odd year because of the pandemic. I'm encouraged though, because I've been going door to door like I did 2 years ago, visiting our citizens, and people thank me. It's very humbling. They thank me, and I presume they're thanking me for leadership during a difficult time, and but it's a team effort. You know, we've got great board members, and the city manager and his staff are doing a great job.
So do you feel good about the last 2 years? Do you feel like you weren't able to do as much as you wanted to, or do you feel like you were able to do actually quite a bit considering?
Well, not knowing how this was all going to work out this time a year ago, we passed a very conservative budget, and I'm fiscal conservative, and I've got a track record in all the political offices I've held as a fiscal conservative. We did not raise taxes. We did not raise water or sewer fees. We actually put the debt on a decline. We put more money toward paving, and we've paid 30% more mileage than we had previously. We doubled the paving budget. We didn't take out any new debt. In fact, we refinanced some debt, and like people would refinance a home, and saved $1.1 million. So I anticipate that we have another conservative budget with no property tax increase. Sales tax revenue's been remarkably strong, and I attribute a lot of that to the fact that the sales tax collections that the state does for internet sales, they've been getting pretty good at that, and we get our share. The discouraging part of that is, as I go to door, I notice people order a lot of things and get delivered by Amazon or whoever. And in a narrow sense, that's good because the city government gets a piece of that, but it doesn't help our local merchants at all. And in an ideal world, people would buy things right here where they live.
True. Well, tell us, what do you see with Kingsport moving forward?
Well, more and more, the longer I'm mayor, the more I see things in kind of a economic development perspective. Now, having said that, the city is not the engine of the economy. The private sector clearly is. Now, the city can help facilitate economic growth by keeping low taxes, which hold down the cost of living, by having great services, be they our great city schools or the infrastructure we maintain. But we have to always look to attract private investment, and that's not easy. We're competing against every city in the nation, large and small. I'm particularly encouraged, though, by the number of people who keep moving to Kingsport. If you live in one of these big cities where there's a lot of crime and turmoil and protests and you name it going on, and closed up the economy due to the pandemic, and we're more open, Kingsport looks more and more attractive.
Yeah, I've seen that. We've had so many people move here lately. It's hard to find a house for sale.
That's true. The realtors can talk to you all about bidding wars for houses. People are selling above what they envisioned they originally marketed the house for.
Well, so tell me a little bit more about moving forward. People are still concerned about the roads.
Yeah.
You hear that over and over.
I still hear that. And look, I guess I'd be blunt. There's no way we could have fixed these all in 2 years. In fact, 21 months that I've been the mayor. I mean, we were in really bad condition 2 years ago, but we are improving. And I realize when I say that to someone who just ran over a pothole on the way to work, or their street has not been fixed yet, that seemed like small comfort. But we are putting a lot more money, time, effort into paving, and we'll continue that as long as I'm mayor.
Any last pearls of wisdom you'd like to share with us about you being mayor, continuing to be mayor?
Well, like I said, when I meet with citizens, I'm very encouraged by how upbeat they are about their city, and how much people love moving here, living here, and the folks that have moved here recently are probably the biggest boosters of the city that there are, because they've lived other places and they can really appreciate what a great place we are. You know, coming back to the Kingsport after the Army was my 17th move, and I can tell you this is a great place, but we're not complacent. We're going to continue to work to make it better.
Very good. Get out and vote. That's the most important thing. The Kingsport municipal election is May 18th. Early voting starts April 28th to May 13th. Absentee ballots can be requested through May 11th. So get out and vote. Mayor Pat Shull, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Linda.
And we'll be back after this message with another candidate. Welcome back to A Closer Look. We now have our third and final mayor candidate to interview. We have Michael Lathrop. Thank you for coming to the show, Michael.
Well, thank you for having me, Linda. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. So tell us about Michael Lathrop. We don't know you. Maybe a lot of people do, but for those that don't, introduce us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I moved here in 1999, so I am not a Kingsport native. However, prior to that, I had moved probably 15 times in 30-some years, and this was the first place I've lived in my life that I truly felt like I was home.
Oh.
When you don't have that all that time, it's really built a special appreciation for me, and I love this town, but I also know, in light of what's happened recently, towns, in order to survive and thrive, are going to have to change. And the one thing I see in this town is we have a habit of believing we can do the same thing we've always done and things are going to be okay. Well, it's a little different this time. So rather than just pack my stuff and move to another town, I thought it's kind of my civic duty to do what I can to do a little good for the neighborhood.
Very good. Well, tell us, what do you see? Maybe, I know there's several different topics the candidates are interested in, but maybe what are the top 1 or 2 or 3 items that you see are the most pressing for Kingsport?
You know, everybody's got their own personal #1 thing, but I worked the census this past summer, and I've knocked on a lot of doors. I do tax preparation from January to April, so I get a very intimate look at some people's financial condition. So I understand what our neighbors and fellow citizens are going through right now. Undoubtedly, not just Kingsport, but everywhere, homeless has become a much bigger issue than it's ever been. And we're also facing some tough times in the future with, you know, we're 60 days away from all the eviction moratoriums expiring, which could exacerbate that problem tremendously. Retail and e-commerce. E-commerce has gained 10 years worth of ground in less than 9 months. So the face of retail in town is going to change. So going back to the can't do the same old thing, we need to be prepared to make this a town that is able and attractive to thrive into the future. So certainly, you know, that's something we need to address, you know, and that comes down to my 2 main things, is addressing that homeless situation and making sure we have a strong, viable retail future going forward. Beyond that, one of the big things I see is I think we can do a lot better on stewardship of taxpayer dollars and what we do and how the city handles that going forward, and leveraging. We've got so many wonderful things in town that we've already invested in, but we have a habit of getting that thing and moving on to the next thing. Let's see how we can tie education, workforce development, bringing some entrepreneurs and new businesses into town, and use some of our existing infrastructure in a more productive way.
Well, how do you propose we do some of that? How do you think we can, you know, lure new businesses here?
Well, one of the things we've got, you know, and I'll go back to the e-commerce thing for a second. You know, it's here to stay. If we like it or not, it's going to be the future in a lot of ways. Where you're in a unique spot in Kingsport, geographically, we're perfectly in the center of the eastern half of the United States. We've got something no other town around here can claim. We're at the intersection of 2 interstates. We've got an airport nearby. Let's court those businesses. That brings shipping jobs, the IT infrastructure that goes with it, the people to fill those orders, and we have a lot of land available to put those new kind of businesses in. We can also work with the educational institutions around town from high school on up to give the proper training to fill the kind of jobs they need going into the future. So again, kind of tie that all together and make good use of the investment we've already made here, and make sure we're prepared properly for the future or the way it's going to be.
Now, a lot of people complain about the roads, and I bring that up only because I hear it over and over again.
Absolutely, and yeah, it's undoubtedly an issue for a lot of folks. The reality of that is there's a vast amount of things that come into play there, be it if the road was under some federal or state constrictions and the planning's out. We've made some ground in that, but we also need to address that. And you know, we're also looking at some inflation, so that cost per mile per paving constantly increases. So it's important we address that, but that takes a while to get into play. The current administration has done a pretty okay job on trying to plan to the future for that, and I intend to continue, if not be able to expand on that. Hopefully we can save some money in some other areas to put more money where the people are wanting it, into that road.
All right, I saw something that you had talked about, the homeless situation and a tax break.
Yes,
Tell me about that.
What I was proposing is rather than put the local government into funding or operating a shelter, we have this really nice ecosystem of a lot of different businesses and things out there that are in place to help. Fundamentally, they all want the same thing: help these people who want and need help. Rather than getting into tax dollars in the city government, I think if we kind of brought everybody a little tighter together, we could offer a small tax break against property taxes for donations made to any of these charitable organizations that help them. So, you know, your net investment is the same for the people out there who don't want to get into their pocket to help. It doesn't cost them a dime. The people who do, they're going to expend the same amount of funds out of their pocket over the year and potentially see more back if some of that becomes eligible in their situation as a federal tax break too on those taxes.
All right, we have about a minute left. Are there any other little pearls of wisdom or any other ideas you would like to mention?
Going back to housing for a moment, I suppose, you know, Kingsport, we're fortunate that there's a lot of attraction here from people moving from other areas. But as the rental moratorium things becomes more of a reality here, we're going to have a lot of lower valued houses become vacant and or sitting there for rent without people available to provide them. I'd like to look into perhaps some sort of homesteading program for first-time home buyers with a cap of, say, $100,000, $150,000 value where it's owner-occupied, to reduce the number of dead properties we have around town, and that can tie right back into education with some job training for construction and things like that.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for your time, Michael.
It's been a pleasure.
And
Thank
get
you.
out there and vote. Kingsport municipal election is May 18th. Early voting's from April 28th to May 13th, and absentee ballots can be requested through May 11th. So get out and vote above all. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week with another edition of A Closer Look.